Hi everyone, thanks for joining our webinar sessions today. This is Tiana and I'll be your host for today's webinar. And with me today is Deborah Thompson, who is a registered BAS agent, an ICB technical presenter, and a long-term client of GovReports to present to you the GovReport STP solution for BAS and tax agents. In these sessions, we aim to show you what are the GovReports STP options so you can determine the right solution for your clients. Before we start, can I get a raise of hands if you can hear me? Cool. Thanks, Sandra. Thanks, Susan. Thanks, Karen. Okay, it sounds like you all can hear me. The webinar is being recorded and will be posted on the website by tomorrow morning for those who want to revisit the at your convenience, or those who cannot make today's sessions. During the session, if you have questions, please send them through on the chat box so we can attend to them during the questions time. So let us get started. Over to you, Deb.
Oh, thank you, Tiana. Hi, everybody. Welcome. You know, it's great to see you all here today. Okay, what's happened to my screen? Let's go with this. So there is the wonderful Tiana, who is the person I always go to when I want help for GovReports and always appreciate it. And as she said, my name is Deborah Thompson, and I have been using GovReports, I think, almost for 10 years now. I think so. I don't know. But yes. So the agenda today is to look at the three solutions that GovReports have for you as agents to use for your clients. We're going to have a look at the phase 2 fields and some screenshots on how it works and how it looks so that you can get a feel for it. So with GovReports, you have your normal subscription, which I'm guessing a lot of you have, if not all of you, where you do your lodgements, your BAS lodgements, your IAS, your tax returns, that sort of thing. But one of the additions is the fact that you do have this single touch payroll lodgement. And of course, it is in STP2, which again, you can do payment, income statements from, you can do taxable annual taxable payments, the TPAR, and you can use this very easily for any voluntary withholdings that your clients might need. And then we have the separate interactive account manager, which is called IAM, which I really like the name. And there's two versions there where you have just the STP reporting, the very cost effective for clients, where they can actually do their payroll if they need to, if they don't have software, or if their software doesn't have payroll, they can use this very simply. It's a standalone payroll. And then the other one is IAM Business, which is actually a small accounting system, so that you can give your clients that facility so they can have control, and you still have that input of being able to look at the files and to look them over and check them over. They're also very cost effective. The ATO or the government said there had to be a $10 version for people that needed payroll. And of course, GovReports have done a wonderful job at coming way under the $10 a month. So it's $99 if you just want the standalone payroll. You can upload, or if your clients can upload CSV files to bring the information into IAM STP if they have some other solution that they're using for something else. And then the full accounting package, which again, it's only small and easy for clients, but it is only $149 per annum. So it's a great way to get clients into using their own software. It's a great introductory if they need it that way, or it can be used, for them forever, really. So the client management, again, is through the subscription. So with the STP reporting module, as I said, it is for micro and small business. You can still do fortnightly, weekly, payroll, whatever you need. As I said, you can bring in a CSV format, and there's no limitation on the number of employees, which is great, because a lot of the $10 versions do have that limit of maybe 4 employees. But this actually can be used for more employees if needed. Then we've also got the business ledger, and these all have free trials, so you could certainly have a look at them, set some of the things up for the client in that initial stages, and then give them the training of what they need to do. As I said, it's an accounting package, a very small, but it's going to do all their activity statements, it's going to do their tax file declarations, their single touch payroll, and business tax returns can be done in all of that. And of course, you could be the one that to do that, and as I said, set it up for the client. There's also a knowledge base that is available for your clients and for you to have a look at, so that they can go in and look at short little, sharp little quick videos where if they're looking for some, how to do something, it's very simple for them to actually go into that knowledge base and have a look and get the information. So single touch payroll, and I do probably think I'm speaking to the converted, you know what single touch payroll is. It's been around since 2018, and of course every employer needs to be informing the ATO of all the wages paid as it's paid on or before the date they actually pay the wages. So STP2, and again, I'm sure you know this, is that newer, expanded, changed version. It's going to be with your STP2, you're going to be reporting wages, tax, super each time the wages are paid. And the idea with the expanded version is that it streamlines for an employer some of the information that they need to send into the tax department, tax file number declarations being one of it, that with STP2, they don't have to worry. They just need to keep the document for their employees and then send it through to the, instead of sending it through to the ATO. The STP2 also is about Services Australia, the child support payments, things like that. It's about trying to make it easier for the employer so that they don't have to send in so much to different government departments. So that's what the ATO is advising us. There are ATO links, and you will find in the IM, the business and the STP, that those links are available on the screen. So anyone can go and have a look while they're setting something up if they feel they need some explanation from the ATO. So with their payroll, with the setup, of course, they have to look at the payroll categories. One of the things, the ATO call them reporting categories. And so you need to gather all of your staff's information. Are they going to be paid annual leave? Are they being paid time in lieu? Are they being paid overtime? Are they getting director's fees? All of those things now need to be identified more than in the previous version. So for the employees, again, you need to gather all the obvious things like their name and address, their start date, their TFN, their wages, what rates they're getting paid. And again, you basically are meshing those with the ATO categories so that you have all of the information going to the ATO in every payroll. And then with the entering the employee's wages, in the GovReports subscription version, you're going to be entering the year-to-date figures, whereas in the IM for the client, when they're entering it, they are just entering the wages as they do it. And because it is a payroll solution and an accounting package, it's going to do all the adding up for them and then going to report that information to the ATO. So again, looking at the fields, and I do feel that probably you know all of this, but the additional information like country, are they holiday makers and you need visas, etc., and those sorts of things. The employment conditions, the income type and country code, as I mentioned, the disaggregation of gross, and that has been, for me, and I think quite a lot of people, it's been the sticking point. What do I need to disaggregate? And, do I have to? And my understanding is the ATO says, if you can, then you must. The salary sacrifice again is identified separately. Your lump sums, which always have been, but again, ETPs, those sorts of things are all going to be in separate categories for STP2. And the child support garnishes and child support, that's there available to be identified. And if you change software, so if the client is going through changes of software, you can, again, it's much easier to identify that and let the ATO know what the previous business management software IDs were and what's happening. Again, because in that first iteration of the STP, this is where people were getting, double their wages apparently on their income statement. So again, the ATO have worked on this to make it better. So as I said, the disaggregation of the gross is the big thing. You need to separate those payroll categories of bonuses and commissions, directors' fees, paid leave, so annual and personal and time in lieu, all of those are going to be disaggregated out of the gross. The salary sacrifice, the overtime and the allowances. And of course, some businesses have a lot of allowances that they pay their employees. So again, this is where using the IM STP or the IM business, it's going to give your client some feeling of control, I believe, over those sorts of areas. With the directors' fees, the ATO has specified that directors' fees need to be reported separately in STP2. And again, there might be travelling costs, costs associated with meetings, those sorts of things that a company director is going to be paid. So again, they need to be looked at and separated out, and bonuses and those sorts of things if they're receiving it. With the paid leave, these are on the left-hand side are the ATO definitions. So other paid leave type O, that's going to be where you put your annual leave and your leave loading and your personal time, your personal leave and your time in lieu. There's going to be paid parental leave, workers' comp leave. The ancillary and defence leave, of course, is for jury duty and community service if that's what's happening. And cashed out leave, again, depending, of course, on the award they're working out and the states, because, of course, sometimes long service leave, that sort of thing, isn't allowed to be paid out. And then your unused leave on termination. So it is, of course, an area where the client will absolutely need to come back to you for some clarification for them to get it right. But luckily, the solution that GovReports have got, I believe, is very simple once you understand the categories that you need to put information in. And you'll see there where it's got the little box around paid leave, and it gives you that different sorts of leave, so you can identify them within the software. Allowances, and of course that has been a lot of the angst that I have seen about STP2, that breakup of where the allowances go, how are they classed, and there's all sorts of ones, whether they're paid for something that they will be able to claim or whether it is an allowance because of the award that they're receiving, but really is just basically in their gross wage. So as I said, the ATO says if you can separate it, then you must. So these are some other awards that you might come across that are pretty sort of typical, I would say, that most, a lot of businesses come against, if there's a task allowance. So, when they're getting a site allowance or a height allowance, those sorts of things can go into task allowance. The tool allowance, obviously pretty obvious. The domestic and overseas travel allowance, the laundry allowance. Again, some of those might be very obvious what goes in there, but some of them clients do need to think about. So the qualification allowance and things like that, that you do need to. Obviously, the clients need to go back to Fair Work Awards. And of course, I would encourage them to go back to you to ask for that advice to help. And I believe that's what they'll need the help. The software won't be a problem for them once they get the hang of it, but it's actually making sure that they have got the breakdown correct. Salary sacrifice, as I said, needs to be separated out. And so again, it is changing how they maybe have previously done the, sorry, my phone just went off. Previously put in the salary sacrifice. They may have had it in the gross and then taken it off depending on what they were doing. This way now it is absolutely separate and it needs to be defined. And you'll see again in the software where it is broken up that you do the salary sacrifice separately to the superannuation guarantee that needs to be completed. And again, you have these different, once you click on the area, you have these other choices to make. But again, once they've done through one pay run, if they have pretty standard payroll, they will be able to do that very simply. And again, with your superannuation guarantee, you've got the ability to, specify that it's risk or that it's ordinary times earnings or it's just the normal super liability. Tiana, is there anything that you want to add or we want questions?
Currently, we don't have any questions from the floor, so I guess it's pretty good.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I thought to actually, have this conversation, it's best if you do look at some screens and have an idea of what the software looks like and what it does. So the first one we're going to look at is the IAM, and that's because whether they've got the STP one or whether they've got the business, pretty much the payroll works the same within this software. So if you can work one, you can work the other. So this is again, I'm sure you're used to looking at GovReports, and you'll notice straight away with the IAM software is that this section is a bit different and a bit more colourful, and so hopefully it'll give you, the prompt that you are in different software. And on the payroll, you've got payroll events, which of course is what the ATO calls a pay run, a pay event. And you've got your payroll payments and your employees where you add your employees. This again is very typical that the first thing, like one would expect, the first thing you have to do is to actually add your employees. So you need their TFN, you need their name, address, all the basis of, how they are being employed. So again, there's a section there, you go to employees and you have a plus sign, which in a circle, and you'll find that in a few places on the screens as you go through them, or you've got in red, and generally again, any instruction that it's expecting you that on this page you'd want to use is going to be in red to hopefully prompt everybody that that's what they need to do. So when you're onboarding, you need all this information, which again, I'm sure you're not surprised about. You'll see that it's got Australian business number, which is highlighted, and the director ID. So the director ID is applicable if you're going to be using director's fees, that you can actually put that in there so that you know the information is there. And the Australian business number is if you want to use it for voluntary withholding. So if your clients have contractors, then they can set it up, and if they have that voluntary withholding with a contractor, they can use this STP, IAM and business or the GovReports subscription to actually also do that, so that they don't have to create an income statement at the end of the year for those contractors. So it does ask you for that information. And again, obviously tax file number, etc. But we go like for resident status. Are you a resident? Are you a non-resident? Are you a working holiday maker? The PAYG options, are they tax-free, or is it a second job and there's no tax-free threshold, or are they a daily casual? Employment status, where, full-time, part-time, Labour hire, again, this is where you can set up their voluntary agreements, so they're identified each time that a payment goes through to them, that when it is lodged, the ATO knows about it. Then you've got your employment category, and I like the fact that it's got actors separately. But again, regular, so you know, as you pick each one, obviously it's informing the software of what needs to be done. So here again, you know, the voluntary agreement or their working holiday maker, all of that, so all of that is taken care of. And then again with the income stream, are they salary and wages? Are they labour hire? You'll see there where you can define them as closely held payees. And so again, it is going to make sure that the tax is appropriate for those as you've created their category and their employment status. So once you have done all that, then you see this is what it basically looks like. Of course, it never changes pretty much what's there unless they leave, and then you're going to be, you know, finalising them. But that's pretty much what a full informed employees file looks like. So when you start a pay run, and obviously the employees are first, you create the employees, and then you're going to pay them. So you go to the payroll, to the pay events, to a pay run, and then of course the first thing that you've got to do is pick an employee. So you'll see there's the employee there. All of that information that is highlighted in red is going to be pre-filled from whatever you've set up as the employee. And then as you see there at the bottom, there's earnings. There's going to be boxes where they are able to put in their categories of all the different payments that they are making to the employee. So the first section, as I said, is filled in from once you pick a person from what you've already set up. You'll also see there that this is where one of the areas where it says ATO links. So if anybody needs that information, they can go there and look at what the ATO resource is telling them to do. And as you can see, we've got earnings, we've got paid leave payments, and with each one of them, there's an add button. So you can set these up as templates. So this is what they always get paid. And then as the year goes on and maybe they take leave, maybe they're sick, they're able to then add those categories as they do each wage. Obviously, the tax is going to be calculated, and then you save it and mark it as posted. So again, this is just following on what you see with an employee. It's just down one length of it. You know, you just keep going until you get to the end, and you'll see it's filled in with the you know, this one allowance. So maybe this is the one allowance they get every pay, and then again, if they get some other allowances, obviously you're able to add that. If you've got workplace giving, all those sorts of things that are required are available there for you to turn on and turn off as is required for each employee. The tax, of course, is calculated, and then if you need to do fringe benefit, all of that is also taken care of, and then you'll see that red button, save as posted. Now that basically means that it is a payroll that you're going to be paying. You can save it as a draft if there's some question. So again, you might, you know, do it and you have a question about something, so you are able to save that as a draft. One of the important things to know though is that if it's a draft, you can't send it through to the ATO, but I'm sure you're used to that with GovReports in the same thing, that we can save documents as a draft, or we can save them to be sent for signatures, those sorts of things. And then of course, when we're finalized with it, in this instance, we call it, you know, we mark it as posted. And again, you'll see the red button there is to make sure that you can make it as posted, because if it's a draft, it can't be lodged. Prepare STP is in blue there, and you are able to do one employee at a time, or you can obviously, if you've done, you know, 10 employees, you can tick the whole 10 and send them all off to the ATO. So here you'll see that the toolbar, if you like, that is there, it's got markers posted, rollover, send email, prepare STP, delete, and it says more. And the final event indicator is the one there that perhaps you might use most often. And basically, markers posted is changing it from a draft to ready for sending to the STP. Rollover, I'm going to show you, is how you can do the next wage without having to do all the data entry. Send an email, obviously you can send an email to the client with the employee with their pay slip. You can prepare STP, as I said, by one or by many, for many. Obviously you can delete it if you've got it wrong. And then under the final event indicator, what's great about this, because I come from the very old days of doing group certificates, and this is basically a tick. And you can select, again, all of your employees or just one employee and tick that and say they're final. So if they have staff that come and go through the year, they can absolutely be finalising as they go through the year. So it's not a big deal to have it ready for the 14th of July. Then on the other side of the page, we've got filter, we've got import, the pay run, the CSV. So this again, if they are using something else and they have some sort of pay run or payroll software that doesn't, isn't good enough to lodge through the STP, they can put it into here and, for a very reasonable price, have it updated and so that it fits in and can be sent to the ATO. You've got the new pay run. So again, you can come to this screen, hit new pay run and start the next one. And then of course you can get the refresh, which we're all pretty used to, I think, these days. So this is where once you've got a client, an employee, I should say, and you've picked the employee and you can go prepare for STP. Now I've only done one, but of course you can do the whole bunch of the employees that you've got for this time. So once you've already done the information, you can come in here, check what's done. Is it ready? Go in and view it. And if you believe it's ready, then you can declare and you can lodge. You can again also save it as a draft so that you can send it to clients for authorization if you're doing it, if the clients themselves aren't doing it. So, perhaps they put it in and get you still to lodge it. So you can certainly use that then to get the authority. And of course, this screen shows you that it's processing. So in the pay run, the screen ticked employees to be lodged is basically what you're doing. So you tick whoever it is that you want to lodge. Then you click on prepare STP and the reporting info and select next, and the employees info and select next. So that's what just happened in that little fast little moving screen there. Obviously checking your declaration box as an agent so that you can lodge it. And again, pretty straightforward. So this is again just that same screen, just to give you a bit more of a bit of a longer chance to have a look at it. You can have a look at the reporting info, that the gross amounts, of course, are about that payroll. They're not the year-to-date figures. They are about that particular payroll, but the employees are having the year-to-date information sent to the tax office. And in the declaration, as I said, you can validate it and save it. You can save it as a draft or you can lodge. And again, I'm sure you've all been using GovReports, so you're pretty used to that sort of same scenario in your GovReports subscription. When you get acknowledgement from the ATO, again, it looks, pretty sort of standard that you get that lodgement confirmed, and then you get the what was lodged, and it shows you with the company name. And again, what you'll see in this two section is showing you the wages for the week or the fortnight or the month, whatever they are, which is just those wages. Whereas you'll see here that we've got the wages for year to date. It even tells you. So here you're going to see the year to date wages that you've told the ATO, and this is where the wages that will eventually go to pre-fill your W1s and your W2s on your BASs, which is where the ATO is going with that. So once you've done that pay and it's all done, you come back next week and you've got to do it all again. Now, you absolutely can do this by I quite like this. This is what they call a rollover. So again, you pick the people that you want and you then go up and hit rollover. And what that does is it creates a repeat of that pay. Now, if they get the same pay all the time and every now and then they get, you know, an annual leave or something that's a bit different, you can go back. You don't have to just take the last one that was there and roll it over. You can take the one that you know, oh, this is my template, this is what I use all the time. So you're able to do that. So you select payroll rollover, and then it takes you to the client, the employee. I don't know why I keep calling them client, the employee, and again, you can go in and edit that information, or if it's exactly the way you want it, then you can just accept it. And I've just lost my mouse. There we are. So this again, we've got the prepare STP, and we've got them marked as posted. Again, you pick whoever it is you want to roll over, tick that, hit roll over. The new dates that you need for your payroll, whether it be weekly, fortnightly, etc. And as I said, if the pay is the same as the previous week, fortnight, whatever, you can just accept that, mark it as posted, and it's done, which is really great, especially for, say, you know, maybe some of our clients that do only have 2 or 3, or maybe only have themselves, and they're just doing it the same every week to take that payment. Once you've set that person up, that employee's new pay, you can then click on it and go into it, and it opens up with the pay slip already done until you go in and want to edit it. Again, you'll see the ATO links are there. So this is where I'm going to add information, or I'm going to change information to what this pay that was done that I need to, you know, if the time's changed, or in this case, you know, maybe they're going to get overtime. So, and again, this shows you, see, I've made a mistake. I forgot to pick hours and rates. So it's very versatile that you can correct those things on the fly, very simply, I think, and with obvious, you know, makes it pretty obvious that you need to fix it. And I move down to the next thing that I want to change or add. So in fact, this one, I'm adding a blank one so that I can get rid of it because I don't want that one there anymore. Again, I'm just showing you how you can easily get rid of categories as well. So here we've got another, now this person's going to get a tool allowance, which I know I've got to pay PAYGW on it. And again, obviously, you as agents are going to have some of this information, or you might need to look it up and check and see whether there's super, whether there's PAYG on any of these allowances, which obviously changes depending on industries and awards, etc. And so the superannuation guarantees worked out, and I'm just going to save that. And there's my payroll done for that person, and I can go through, if I've only got 2 or 3, I can just do that, and I have done my payroll for the next fortnight, week, whatever it is, very simply. So here I've got the rollover again, and just to show you, I don't know why I've gone through that one again, perhaps we'll just move on. So are there any questions, Tiana, or anything that you would like to add?
Okay, we don't have any questions from the attendees from the floor. So I do have questions. I wouldn't say questions. The common activities that we have, that we often have, or questions that come to our office, is that when the clients enter the details or they prepare the payroll and they did it during the financial year, but then the agents come in and would realize that it's done wrong, or perhaps they pay themselves wrong, they pay the employees wrongly, and the update event and the full file replacement. Can you, I know the difference, but would you be able to tell the difference?
Well, for me, the update event is, say, for example, they forgot, especially now that perhaps they've got the categories wrong. And so what I would do is go in there, fix whatever it is that I need to do, and it might only be one employee, and so I'm just going to do an update event. So that's where you might lodge your STP just for one employee as opposed to all of your staff. And for me, and again, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Tiana, but for me, a full replacement is where perhaps there's just been maybe a few too many things have gone wrong, and I've found that it is going to be much easier to fix them all in the transactions and then have that full file replacement where I'm changing, if you like, everybody's gross for some reason. Would you agree that that's the definition?
I think I agree with that too, because when you do full file replacement, it's only when the total wages pay for that pay period is likely to affect or change the way that, the figures that you've lodged on your BAS. So for example, the W1 and W2, as you said, it affects everyone's wages, and the combined wages might be a different figure to that of what you report on the BAS.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a full file replacement sounds like it's a bigger deal. Whereas an update event is where, okay, maybe they forgot to put in their salary sacrifice or something like that. So I just go back and I do their next wages, include the salary sacrifice for the whole, and state to the ATO that it's an update event. Yeah, so that's where my thinking goes.
Yeah, agree. And the other thing that you might also notice, that full file replacement can only be done once for that period. So if you make, if you would like to make the changes, that would affect the W1 and W2, the total wages paid and the total PAYG withheld on the BAS, because like you said, a number of, for all the employees, and it affects the figures on the BAS, then you can, but just be mindful, it is the ATO only allow that action to be done only once.
Oh, and yeah, it's something that I would, approach with carefulness. Shall I say?
I agree. Update event is usually is the best options, but if you really have to do a full file replacement, do that. But I probably recommend that save that for perhaps the end of financial year, when when you review all the informations and maybe need to make the changes, and the figures this is the final figures that can be changed, because clients can always oh yes, do this, change this, and then they realize, no, we need to add another employees, or this is not the right figures for whatever reason.
Yeah, or even the fact that maybe they forgot, if they were doing it, they've actually forgot to send that particular pay run.
That's correct. Or perhaps, during that time, the accountant come back, no, we need to change the figures because the, for tax adjustments, etc. Perhaps a different amount should be paid.
Or perhaps something like a dividend was paid and it's been put through as director's fees, and it's no, we don't want it. We don't want it. To do. So there might be something again that you guys as tax agents or BAS agents, particularly tax agents, say, no, we need to change this particular payroll. But even then, if it's only one employee, you could still do an update event, couldn't you?
That's correct. Okay,
right.
I do have another comments to make, because I remember that Deborah, you put up the price for the IMSDP and IM business ledger. I think the mention is $99. At the retail price is $99 for IMSDP and $149 for the IM Business Ledger. Now that's the retail rate, but if you as an agent, as a BAS agent or a tax agent, subscribe on behalf of your clients, you get a 30% margin, and you can on charge, the client back at the full rate if you wish.
Well, that's always a nice little thing to happen too, Tiana. I think we all, as agents, we all appreciate that.
Yep. Okay. Now we do have a questions just coming through, and from Yenny, can we set up the rules to one employee? Do we need to just use the rollover? For example, he start every morning at 6:30. It means the employee entitled overtime 0.5 plus first aid allowance and tools and allowance.
So what you're saying is you can set up a template. You can put that information in, or you can also bring it in as a CSV. So there is much more about the software, if you like, even than I showed you. But certainly you can set it up there. And as I said, if you put it in there the first time, then you can just roll it over and it will be there. And you only have to, change anything if you need to change it. But if he's going to get that pay each time, then as you saw when I rolled it over, that all of the information from the previous one was still in the system. Tiana, did you want to add anything to that?
Sandeep, perhaps you're best with this. Hey, Sandeep is not around. Sandeep?
He's gone.
Okay. All right. Well, I think it's if you once you set up the template, and you can always reuse it, definitely set the rules for that, set up the rules for that particular employee, and if that's repeat every single time, then you can reuse it subsequently. Yeah,
it's got lots of little freedoms like that. I believe the software, the way I have had successful plays with it, of doing it. So now I want to have a look at GovReports. So this is part of your subscription that it's there, and it's very easy for you to access because it's already in your choice of when you look at the forms. So it's your normal, when you select forms like you do in anything else, it comes up. But the one thing that perhaps I want to remind you to have a look at that first time, if you haven't used it previously, I've had a client using my subscription like this for a couple of years now. And so obviously I saw this little red button, the new version. So if you haven't used it before, just check the first time that you go into it, because if it's got that new version button there, it means that the system, because you've never used it, hasn't changed over to STP2. I don't believe that'll happen, but again, I would just suggest for you to make sure that you have a look, because you need to click on that new version and you'll see that it said that STP2 has been mandatory since January 2022. So again, as I said, I don't expect it, but just to make sure, if you see that new version there, you do need to hit the confirm button there, and it will absolutely just turn over into STP2. So when you use the GovReport subscription, this is the first screen that you go into when you want to create a payroll event. And as you can see, it's slightly different than the IM version, but it's got all of the same information, just perhaps presented slightly different. One of the other things that I will mention here is that you've got these little red and orange buttons to tell you if there's any errors as you go along. And what it does is basically it's things that you've missed. And so it's a great reminder to have a look at this. So each section, so the first section is the client that you're using it for, who's, ABN and what have you, that you are reporting on. And that's, basic information, obviously, that you've got set up as a client already. So that's just going to immediately go in there. And yes, and as I mentioned, the errors. The second section is where you're putting the information for that particular pay. So the dates, because the ATO want to know the dates and they want to know when you paid it, because again, one of the stipulations of STP is that you notify the ATO on the payment or before you make the payment. So I guess again, they're going to look and see. I haven't heard of anybody being in trouble, but if you're consistently not lodging that correctly, then I guess maybe they'll come and talk to you. You'll also see here, as Tiana mentioned, that it's got the choice of pay event or an update event. So if you are making an update event, you're correcting something else, then again, that's where you can tell the ATO. And if you're coming over from other software, again, that's also where you can tell them. And you'll see that it's got the gross payment there. It's what's going to be in your W1 and your W2 on your BAS. So this is each payroll run. This is not each employee's year-to-date figures. The third section there you'll see is how you bring in the information for the employees. And you've got manual entry, so you can go and enter them. You've got an import, again, you can bring in a CSV file, or you can roll over. And as you can see, this is probably why I use the rollover all the time. Also, it's got where you can add employees. So again, you can go and add that employee in the first instance. So as I said, it defines the current wage, the current payroll that you're doing. And yes. So then we go to the last two sections. Section 4 is where you make the declaration that this is the information, all your information is true and correct, etc. And then you've got the save and lodge, so you can validate it and you can send it for the signature with that one-time password, which is great. I always find that more prompting my clients to actually sign things because it looks like, oh, where's it come from? And of course, one of the things now with security, I do tell my clients that it is coming from GovReports. And of course, this is where you can lodge. So when you add the employee, again, it's similar to the other in the fact that you've got to put all that information in. Again, you can use it for voluntary agreements if you have contractors or the client has contractors that they're using. You put in your start and finish, finish date if they've ceased working. Again, this is where you pick the category and your options. And as you pick what sort of employee they are and what sort of tax treatment, the rest of the information is going to be filled in the background by the GovReports. Also, you'll see again that it's got your pay run here. And again, when you want to finalize this client for the end of year, it's again just a tick, which is, I find that wonderful. Yes, I find that great. It's very good. So again, when you're putting the information in, now you'll see this is different as opposed to the client's information when you're putting the wage for that pay run. For the employee, you are putting the year-to-date figure. So you do certainly need that information. And again, I'm guessing that in this instance, you're probably getting this information from somebody, again, who has a payroll. And for whatever reason, they're not doing STP through that payroll. Maybe the payroll doesn't allow it. So again, this is where you're putting their gross, their PAYG. You'll see the overtime amount. So again, where you're separating out bonuses, if you've set them up as directors, there's going to be, a place for directors' fees. Again, all of the categories, the payroll categories, if you tick them, then they're going to have this add paid leave or add whatever section you're in. And again, as you tick each one on, you're going to get the choices that you're able to do. as you allowances, those sorts of things. And it's really pretty much the same deal, that when I roll it over, I've got the information there, and I'm pretty much just filling in the new section or the extra. Again, it's got your super guarantee, and we are just saving that. That then takes us back to that main page for the client. So this is basically, again, I've left out the names and what have you, but this is it, where we've set the client up, or the employee up, as a regular with the tax-free threshold, the dates, and we're just putting in the year-to-date information. Now, as I mentioned, if it is somebody that you're using again, that you'll actually find that it will come up with the figures as you go and type it in. And as you see there, it will give you what you put in last. And so, again, it reminds you that, of course, that it is year to date. So here we've got other paid leave. And again, that's where it is because it's year to date. I can add more categories. And in this case, I'm going to add an allowance. And again, I've got the choice, which one of those am I going to break it up into? It's going to be a tool allowance. Again, I obviously like tool allowances. And again, a salary sacrifice. So I'm going to put in the salary sacrifice. And again, I need to pick which one of those I am using and put in the amount, the year-to-date figure. And again, the superannuation liability, the superannuation guarantee. And obviously I'm typing very slowly with this. And so once I'm happy that it's there, then I hit save. And again, it takes me back to the overall client. And again, we don't want to. So this is what the overall client looks like. And even though this doesn't tell me something, I know that I've got some mistakes, and that's just purely because I took the wrong screenshot. But these are the sort of errors that I might see pretty typically. And it's basically telling me that I've forgotten to fill in certain information. So in this instance, I've forgotten the gross pay for the week's pay or the fortnight's pay. I've forgotten the PAYGW to put in that needs to be paid to the ATO. And I forgot to put in the payment date, the day I'm going to pay those, wages. So then here I am where I have corrected that information. I've put in my date of payment. I've put in my PAYG, and I have put in my gross payment for the pay. So then it takes me back, and this is the number 3 on the client's information, where you can see those wages that I had, they aren't anywhere near what the gross amounts are, because these amounts again are year to date, whereas the wages, the total wages that was looking for was just the pay that I was doing. Obviously then I have to tick my declaration. I have to basically sign it, and then I have that choice again where I can send it to my client for a signature, or if I have that information, I can hit lodge and be done. This again is, and I'm sure you're used to seeing these ones because you would have other things that you lodge with the government. This is our STP GovReports confirmation from the ATO, and of course this is the total pays. So you'll see in this, again, just to remind you, that my W1 and my W2s are much different than here with the employees, because this is the pay that I have just done for the week or the fortnight, whereas this is the year-to-date figures that I have been telling my client or my employees what they have earned over the year so far. So that's, again, just I always like to remind you that is, the difference that you see. So it's really, I find it very easy to use either of the solutions, very cost effective for my clients, and yeah, very, very positive has always been my experience with it. The one thing that is left for me to tell you, as I said, is there is a knowledge base with lots of little videos that are just, say a couple of minutes long, so your clients can feel, they don't have to tell you that they're looking at it. They can look at it and understand where you click. And so I do absolutely recommend that you do show your clients where that knowledge base is. And on that note, Tiana, unless we have questions,
we do have a questions from Sandra. So the question is, if you are submitting the quarterly amount for CHP, help me with that.
Closely held payee.
Okay, closely held payee. Yep. Do you just have the payment date as the last day of the quarter?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep.
I believe that is what is acceptable to the ATO.
Yeah, I agree. I do have a question. So, so how do you determine which software is the like whether it's IAM or GovReports is right for the client?
Well, for me, initially, I guess, to be totally truthful, the reason that I used GovReports was I wanted to keep my hand in. And so I had a client that I knew I could get STP out of their software, but it's basically a two-person, and I thought, no, I want to keep my hand in GovReports and see how it works. That's how I used it. It suited me, basically, is how I used it. But clients that actually, I've got a client who's got, there's some special software that they had written for them, they don't want to change. And so the IAM STP, which is just the reporting, is much simpler. They can do it, I can check it, we can communicate, I can go into it anytime, they can do it, and we both feel we have control, if you like. I know that I'm feeling comfortable that it is getting sorted, and my client knows that if, for example, whatever reason they can't do something or they don't know, they can get me to jump in. And the third solution with the accounting package is maybe you've got a client that you come across and they don't actually have any software, and it can just be that, first let's teach you on this, let them feel like they have control, and it's still very cost effective for them. So that, I don't know whether that helps, but does it make sense to you, Tiana?
Yes, it does. I'll add more to it. The difference also is that if the clients require pay slip, or as Deborah mentioned earlier, they want to do their own occasionally because they know how much they pay their employees, and just the simple reporting, IAM is the right solutions for them. GovReports, you only use that as an agent if the client is not using the software, or they don't need, and maybe closely held, and they don't need to, they just pay themselves. They don't really need the pay slip, and it does not do the calculation, the payroll tax calculations. So that's what I would say is the difference between the two. So you've got to decide if the clients can do their own calculations and they pay themselves pretty much, this is what they pay, and the accountants might be doing the tax, or you might be doing the tax calculations for them. Then GovReport is the right solutions for them.
Thank you, Tiana, because you really do remind me, the clients I do on GovReports, I do everything for them. I do all their data entry. They've got such a very small business, and they were never going to do it, and so it was just easier and for me to be able to go over and use GovReports. But Tiana is absolutely correct. When you want the pay slips, when you want when the clients want that feeling of control and want it to be cost effective, I absolutely suggest either version of the IAM software.
The other thing is also I want to mention is that with GovReports reporting solution, or the STP reporting solutions, I find it, especially during the end of financial year, a lot of agents use GovReports to fix, to fix up the payroll that their clients have done, because it might be a mess just to go in and fix every single payroll, because you know, every now and then you find a client that has been doing everything wrong from the very start, and you know, you don't want to go in there and just try to fix up every single pay slip that they created. So rather you just you know, I find a few agents have come into GovReports, just do one single payroll as an update event and just update everyone's payroll to date with the year to date. Because the good thing is, you know, with STP, it's a year to date figures, and as long as you've got the year to date figures correctly for each of the employees and finalize it, it's perfect. Just the one go, and you get everything fixed up for the clients.
Yeah, I guess I just like to use GovReports too. That's my weakness. But yeah, I do think that the two IAM solutions are great when you're involving your client.
Cool. Any other questions from the floor?
No, it doesn't seem like it.
Cool. We do have a questions from Yenny. Well, she is interested with IAM software. I like to play with the demo. Might be subscribe for a new client in a new financial. Thank you. I need to go home and cook. Okay, she needs to go home and cook for her family. Yenny, it's instead of going for the demo account or a testing account, you probably be best to go with the free trial. Just sign up using another email address or a client's, you know, like another email address that you have. Sign up for the free trial of the IAM and play around with it and see how you go.
Yeah, and absolutely use the knowledge base. They're great little videos just to tell you where it is. And also, of course, there are written instructions too. With the question mark, you can always go and find some help. And it's very straightforward, I think.
Yeah, in this webinar, we have not covered how, if as an agent, you can invite your clients to IAM. Like I said, you might be probably also an option is that invite your clients to join IAM. When they click on the buttons to accept the invitations, perhaps sign up for the free trial from there. Cool. All right, well, Lynn has left, so if we don't have any further questions, thank you everyone for attending. We again, if you have any questions on these topics, just don't hesitate to give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to come back to you, and or if you have questions for Deborah, I'll be happy to pass it on to Deborah. Having said that, once again, thanks to everyone, and of course Deborah for the very informative sessions. And we still have another webinar this week from Deb later this week, Thursday.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Thursday, and it's about voluntary agreements in STP, and also finalising for the end of the year, because we are coming up to that. We're not that far away from finalising for everybody.
Cool. So we look forward to see you again online on the webinar sometime this week if you are joining us again. Otherwise, thanks again and have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Tiana, are you?
I'm gonna quit. Okay, I'm gonna leave the webinar.
Turn off the recording, I think.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Deborah.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Bye.